right, if you would please find your textbooks, and we are actually going to turn over to page 263. We're going to turn over to page 263, and we're going to look at activity 1.2 on simple interest. All right. Simple interest. So we've learned that simple interest, let me go back here. We've also learned about compound interest. All right, here we go. The formula to determine simple interest is this. I is equal to PRT, where I is the interest, P is the principal, R is the interest rate, and T is the time. Okay, so suppose that you invest $1,000 into an account that earns 4% simple interest. How much time is earned after 15 years? Okay, and then what is the total value of the investment after 15 years? Okay, so I am told that T is time, which that's usually almost all in years, most of the time. Your interest rate, well, that's right here, your simple interest rate. This is your R. And your P, that is your initial amount. That is how much you start with, okay? So my principal is $1,000. My percent rate is 4%, and my time is 15 years. So I'm told to do I is equal to PRT, which this is the same thing as I is equal to P times R times T. I'm multiplying all three of these numbers together. Okay, so they did 1,000 times 0.04 times 15%. Well, why is it 0.04? That's because 4% as a decimal, it's 1, 2, is 0.04 times 15, and they received that my interest rate is $600. Okay, is 600. Now, the last question is asking, so that's how much interest I earned. Okay, the last question is, what is the total value of the investment? So if I started with 1,000 and I earned 600, is my final total $600 in my account? Well, no, I need to take the amount of my interest. Okay, so I need to take my original amount. I need to add my investment back, and my total is now 1,600. Okay, my total now is 1,600. So let's determine the total amount of investment after 25 years. So I'm going to have I, P, R, T. Well, I is unknown. P is I start with $1,000. My rate is still 0.04, and my time is now 25. Okay, so I'm going to use the equation I is equal to PRT. So I'm going to have I is equal to 1,000 times 0.04 times 25. Now, in order to multiply all three of these numbers together, it is much easier to multiply the first two numbers together and then multiply the last one to this right here, to this product. And I'll just show you. So 1,000 times 0.04. Well, 4 times 0 is 0. 4 times 1 is 4. Done, placeholder. So 0 times anything is 0. So I'm going to add everything up here together. And I have two decimal places. So I'm going to go 1, 2. Well, I have these two multiplied together is 40. I still need to multiply it by 25. Okay, so all I did was just multiply the first two numbers to get me 40. I need to now multiply it by the number of years of 25. So 40 times 25. Well, 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 4 is 20. Done with the 5 placeholder. 2 times 0 is 0. 2 times 4 is 8. So I'm going to add these numbers up together, and I'm going to get this. And I see that 40 times this is $1,000. So my investment, my earning is $1,000. So I started with 1,000. I earned, my interest is how much I earned, is $1,000. So how much is my total amount? Well, I need to take my principal, add my interest to it, and I see that my final balance is $2,000. Okay, is $2,000. Okay, well, what happens if I go from 25 years to 50 years? So my interest is still unknown. My principal is still 1,000. My rate is 0.04, and my time is 20, or not 25. It is 50. So let's do this again. I is equal to 1,000 times 0.04, whoops, times 50. Okay, well, I already did the math here. Well, 1,000 times 0.04, that's 40. Well, then what's 40 times 50? So 40 times 50. Well, 0 times anything is 0, placeholder. 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 4 is 20. Add everything up, and I get $2,000. Well, that is my interest. Okay, that's my interest for this account, and I'm earning this money. So I start with $1,000. I earn $2,000 in interest. Well, how much money do I have in all? I have $3,000 in all. $3,000 in all. Okay. Number 2, determine the total value of a $500 investment earning 3% simple interest over 7 years. Okay, show all of our work. So I want to know this. So I have I, P, R, T. Well, my investment, I'm not sure. My initial amount, is it 500, 3%, or 7 years? Well, my initial, my P is $500. My rate is 3%. Well, that as a decimal is 0.03. And my time is 7 years. So I have I is equal to PRT. I is equal to 500 times the rate of 0.03 times the time of 7 years. Okay? So I is going to equal, actually, let's go ahead and just multiply these two. Well, 500 times 0.03 times 0.03. 3 times 0 is 0. 3 times 5 is 15. Carry or placeholder. 0 times anything is 0. And I'm just going to add all these numbers up here. And I have 2 values behind the decimal. So I'm going to go 1, 2, and I'm going to get 15. So 500 times 0.03 is 15. And I need to multiply this by the number of years that I'm doing this for. 7 times 5 is 35. 7 times 1 is 7, plus 3 more is 10. So in interest, I have earned $105 in interest. Okay, I want to know the total value after my interest. So I need to take my original investment of $500, add $105 to it to see that my total is $605. My total is $605. All right, I want you guys to try number 3. I want you to pause this video, and I would like for you to find your I, your P, your R, and your T. And I want you to solve. Okay, so determine the total value of a $50,000 investment earning 3% interest over 15 years. So that means my interest is unknown. My principal, my original investment, is $50,000. My rate is 3%, which we learned at the top is 0.03. And I'm doing this for 15 years. So I have I is equal to PRT. So I'm going to plug in what I know. So $50,000 times the rate of 0.03 times the time of 15 years. So let's go ahead and multiply these two numbers first. So 50,000 times 0.03. Well, 3 times 0 is 0. 3 times 5 is 15. Done. Placeholder. Well, 0 times anything is 0. And I'm going to add all my numbers up. And I'm going to move my decimal 2 times to the left to get 1,500. And I'm going to multiply that by 15 years. So I'm going to have 1,500 times 15. Well, 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 2 more is 7. Placeholder. 1 times 0 is 0. 1 times 0 is 0. 1 times 5 is 5. And 1 times 1 is 1. Add all of these up. 7 plus 5 is 12. And then 1 plus 1 is 2. So in interest, okay, so I multiplied those two. In interest, I have earned $22,500. In interest, I've earned $22,500. My question is asking for the total value. So I'm going to take my original investment of $50,000 and I'm going to add $22,500 back to it. Because I want to know, after investing all this for this many years, 5, 6, 7, how much do I have? And after 15 years, you should have $72,500 in the bank account. Okay, let's take a look at number 4. If a $900 investment earned $78.75 in interest over 7 years, what is the interest rate in the account? Okay, so what does it sound like we are looking for? It sounds like I am looking for my rate. So my rate is unknown. Well, I can tell that 7 is going to be my time because that's in years. Now I'm down between 900 invested and 78.75 in interest. Well, 78.75, it says it's an interest, so that's my interest. And my invested is always what I start with. That's my P, that's my principal. Okay? So I is equal to PRT, and I'm going to plug in the information I have. So interest is 78.75 is equal to 900. I do not know my rate, but my time is 7 years. Okay. Well, what's happening in between each of these numbers and letters is I'm multiplying everything together. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and multiply these two numbers together. I'm going to combine them because based on the associative property, when adding, you can add any numbers in any direction. And the the opposite version of that for multiplying is you can multiply any number in any order. Okay, because let me ask this. If I multiply 0.03 times 15 and then multiplied it by 50,000, do you think I'm going to get a different number? No, I'm going to get the exact same number. Just because I multiply the first two numbers doesn't mean that my multiplying all three of these numbers together means I'm going to get a different number. So I'm going to do 900 times 7. Well, 7 times 0 is 0. 9 times 7 is 63. So these two numbers together is 6,300. I'm still multiplying it by R, and I'm still setting it equal to 78.75. Now, we should be able to solve this from here because it's a one-step equation. To get R by itself, I need to do the opposite of what I see. And what I see is multiplication. So I'm going to think division, and I'm going to divide those two numbers together. And let's see. 78.75 divided by 6,300. And my decimal is 0.0125. That is what my decimal is. Now, I want to know what percent is that. When we deal with the rate, we've learned that we've turned it all into a decimal. So I need to move it and turn it into a percent. So 0.0125, to get from a decimal to a percent, you're going to move your decimal 2 times to the right. And this is going to be equivalent to 1.25%. 1.25%. Okay. That's doing examples on simple interest. Okay. Looking at activity 1.3, this is something called compound interest. Okay. So suppose that we take the original $1,000 that we had in our first activity, and we're investing it at 4%, but instead of simple, this is compound interest. Okay. So watch what happens. So year 1, I start with $1,000. I use my simple interest rate, and I end with 1,040. Okay. Year 2, I start with whatever I ended the last year with. So after the year 1, I now have $1,000.40, which this number becomes my new principal. So then I do 1,040 times my interest times 1 year, and I see that I add 4,160, and I get my new total. So at the end of year 2 is what I start with for year 3. And then so on and so on and so on. Okay? So notice that each individual year, I am not adding the same amount each time. What I'm adding is going to be a little bit more than the year that it was previous because I'm starting with a new balance. I will never start with the $1,000. So like after year 5, I'm not going to go back to start with $1,000. I'm going to start year 5 off with whatever the ending for year 4 is. And that's how compound interest works. Okay, so in this class for 7th grade, you guys will not calculate compound interest. Okay, we're just going to fill out the formula for it. All right, so to complete a table like the one in the worked example can be time consuming and inefficient. Therefore, a formula is generally used to determine the final balance. Okay, and the compound interest formula is below. It is B is equal to P sub 0 times 1 plus R to the T power. Now, this right here is your 7th grade reference chart. All right, this is taped inside of our spirals. And what I want you guys to understand and look at all the way down here is that I'm given my simple interest formula and I'm given my compound interest formula, where A is equal to P plus 1 plus R to the T power, or P is equal times 1 plus R to the T power. So what I want you guys to do is we're going to mark this equation out, and we are going to place our equation that looks just like our star chart. So A is equal to capital P 1 plus R to the T power. Okay, to the T power. All right. Well, we already know what these letters mean. Okay, we learned for simple interest that P is my principal, R is my rate, and I'm going to say as a decimal, and then T is equal to my time. All right. So all we do in 7th grade is we are going to write the total. We're going to just write the equation. Okay. So I want to write the total value for $500 investment. So I invested $500. That's my principal. At 3%, that's my rate. For 7 years, that's my time. So all I'm going to do is plug these numbers into my equation. So P is equal to 500. R is equal to 3%, which is 0.03. And then T is equal to 7. So I'm going to use this equation. A is equal to P plus 1, or times 1 plus R to the T power. And all I do is just plug my numbers in. So A is equal to 500, open parentheses, 1 plus 0.03 to the 7th power. Okay, that's all I do. Now, just out of curiosity, can I go ahead and add 1 and 0.03 together? Yeah, of course I can. So I'm going to just go ahead and do that one last step for me. I'm going to combine my two terms. So 1 plus 0.03 is 1.03 to the 7th power. When you look at your test, you will either have this equation or you will have this equation. That's it. You do not have to solve. Okay? So sometimes when you're just plugging in your numbers, it's going to look like this. But if your answer choices, they do not show this, it's because they're adding the 1 and the rate together, because we can. We know how to add numbers with decimal. That's easy. All right, let's try it one more time. Let's try number 3. So find the principal, the rate, and the time. So the principal starts at 50,000. My percent is 3% or 0.03, and my time is 15 years. So A is equal to P times 1 plus R to the T power. A is equal to $50,000 times 1 plus 0.03 to the 15 years. Now make sure that 15 is up in the little top right-hand corner. So let's go ahead and just combine these two numbers. So that way we have an example of each. So A is equal to 50,000 times, well, 1 plus 0.03 is 1.03 to the 15th year. If you guys have any questions on those, please let us know.